When I asked why he had made a family card for his in-laws, James laughed and said, "Because they're my family. Of course, they should have a family card, right? Got a problem with that." He added, "If you knew who took you in when you were all alone, you wouldn't say such things, would you?" I was surprised by his bold tone, which was new to me. Was James always like this? He continued, "If you're thankful, you should do more for my family. Then I'll consider you part of the family. Until then, you're on a trial period." I had never heard of a trial period in marriage. James went on, "See, I was quiet. In other words, you're not fully part of the family yet. If you don't like it, you can leave anytime. For now, our family is just the 6 of us." I was shocked. After that, I immediately canceled all our joint credit cards and moved out. My name is Olivia Cook, 30 years old. I'm a freelance illustrator. I used to work as a designer for a big advertising agency, but started on my own 5 years ago when I got married. Now, I work from home. My parents died in an accident when I was young. I was raised by my maternal grandparents, but moved back to my parents' apartment near the city center for college. I've been living there ever since. I met my husband James at an Italian restaurant where he worked. It was a nice place with reasonable prices and good food, so my colleagues and I often went there. That's when James, the handsome waiter, became a topic of conversation. Indeed, he was good-looking. The manager once joked that a lot of the regulars came just to see James, and I could see why. I won't deny that. I became one of James's fans because I thought he was really cool. He really stood out. For some reason, we quickly became closer, and soon, people were calling us a couple. Surprisingly, we ended up getting married. I don't remember much about that time. It's almost like I was in a daze. When I snapped out of it, I was married to a man I was calling my husband. But I loved James then and was happy when we got married. I quit my job as a designer at the company and started working independently. It was a friendly departure, and I continued the same kind of work, but on my own. James kept his job at the Italian restaurant, working different hours, sometimes late into the night. It became hard to work as usual, and I had always wanted to work independently, so I decided to go for it. "It's a good idea, Olivia. It'll be easier for you, and it's great to keep doing what you love." James supported my decision. That's how our life as newlyweds began. We both didn't care for flashy things, so we decided not to have a wedding ceremony and just officially registered our marriage. We met each other's families briefly, and that was it. James went to work, and I worked from home and did the household chores. Our schedules were irregular, but we kept in touch and waited to have meals together when we were both homes. It was a happy, simple life, and I thought, marriage is nice. But about a year after we got married, everything fell apart. "My family wants to come over. Is that okay?" James asked one day. Of course, I said it was fine. I had only met and briefly talked to James's family at our initial meeting, so I thought this was a good chance to get to know them better. Having lost my parents at a young age, I always admired James's large family. But when his family of 5 arrived, I was left speechless. "Hey, which room is mine?" his sister asked as soon as she walked into our house. James's sister, who is 35 years old and 3 years older than both James and me, worked at a local supermarket. I was shocked by her rude behavior, so different from the polite greeting she gave me when we first met. James's 22-year-old sister was also there, but she was quiet and just stood there without saying a word. I remember she barely spoke when we first met. Hurried by James's sister, I showed the 2 sisters to the guest room and James's parents to the room that used to be my parents' room. It was the only Japanese-style room in the apartment, so I thought it would be best for them. After settling into their rooms, James's sister announced, "Well, since we're going to be living here together, you better start serving our family properly." I was confused by what she meant, but when I looked at James for help, he just laughed in a way I had never seen before. It turned out his family had given up their own home and moved into my apartment without telling me. Sorry, our family home suddenly had to be vacated, and they had nowhere to go, he explained. I wish he had told me earlier. I had thought it was just for a day or 3, and this was really inconvenient. When I mentioned this to James, trying not to upset him, he looked down and apologized. Please, just until they find somewhere else to go, he pleaded. I couldn't say no. How could I turn away people in need, especially the family of someone important to me, without even a place to go? I reluctantly agreed to live together on the condition that they find a new place as soon as possible, but I would come to regret this decision. James's family showed no restraint. All 4 of them, from the day they moved in, did nothing and left everything to me, saying whatever they wanted. They made no effort to look for a house or a job. When I asked about their jobs, I was in for another surprise. Oh, I quit that lousy supermarket job, she had said. She was employed, but apparently it was just part-time work. I had thought she worked full-time because of her age, but she told me she hadn't had a steady job since high school. James's parents also had part-time jobs, which they quit before coming here. And of course, James's other sister was unemployed. She had claimed she was a student, but that was not true. Why should I work when I've become part of a wealthy family? She asked. When I asked who she was talking about, I got another shocking reply. You, of course. You got a big settlement and insurance money from your parents' accident, and you don't even have a mortgage on this apartment. You can live without working, James's sister said, laughing. I complained to James when he got home, but he yelled in a way I had never seen before. Everyone's tired from suddenly having to leave their home. Let them rest for a while. Or do you want to kick out my family, Olivia? Stunned, I froze. Then James suddenly softened his tone. Sorry for yelling. I'm having a tough day too. Can you just be a little more patient? Looking back, James was skilled at manipulating situations with a mix of kindness and harshness. But at that moment, I didn't see it and agreed to endure a bit longer. The tyranny of James's family got worse. They treated me like a servant at home and demanded money when going out. We can't job hunt without a penny, can we? It's fine, but if we can't find work, we'll just keep living here, they said. I reluctantly gave them some money, which they claimed to have spent without finding jobs. They probably never looked for work, but if I said that, they would accuse me of lying without proof, and James's whole family would blame me for hours. Telling James didn't solve the problem. Everyone's frustrated about not finding jobs. Sorry, just bear with it a little longer. I'll talk to them, James said, trying to smooth things over. But as time went on, I felt like saying anything was pointless. However, the frequency of them asking for money gradually decreased, perhaps because James said something, so the issue seemed to resolve itself. Of course, the money I had given them was never returned. Then, after about 2 months of living this way, I noticed something alarming. Why is the credit card bill so high? Could it be unauthorized use? When I quickly checked the credit card statement, all the charges were made with family credit cards. The purchases included food, drinks, books, games, and even expensive brand bags and clothes. Each item was labeled with a number from 1 to 6, showing that 6 family credit cards had been issued. These credit cards were in my name, with James using the family cards. It seems like you'd be better at handling this, and it's more convenient to consolidate payments, right? Can I leave it to you? He had said, and I ended up managing them. But it turned out these family cards had been issued without me knowing. James's family stopped asking for money because they could now make credit card payments and cash withdrawals. When I confronted James about why he made family cards for his in-laws without asking me, he laughed and said, "Well, you complain when they say they have no money, so what choice do I have? Besides, you know who took you in when you were all alone, right? Can you really say such things to the important family of your benefactor?" I was stunned into silence by his bold tone, unlike anything I had heard before. Was James always like this? If you're grateful, you should serve my family more. Then I'll acknowledge you as family too. Until then, consider it like you're on a trial period," he continued. I had never heard of a trial period in marriage. Seeing my silence, James pressed further. "This means you're not yet an official family member. If you don't like it, you can leave anytime. Right now, it's just the 5 of us in our family. Useless parasites, get out." That's when I realized James's true nature. I felt as if all the blood had drained from my body. Shocked, I considered divorcing James. In fact, I began to wonder why I had married James in the first place. Initially, I just thought he was a handsome guy, like the other girls. I was just excited about him being handsome, without any particular reason. Then one time, when I went to the restroom, James approached me. "You seem different from other people, Olivia. I don't know, kind of mystical." Sorry, it's not something I should say to a customer. I was surprised but kept listening, and I gradually started to pay more attention to James. Maybe that was his plan to make me like him. When I think about it calmly, it makes sense. I remember once when James came to our table for small talk. A colleague jokingly said I was a wealthy lady living alone in a condo. It was right after that he started talking to me, probably because he was interested in my wealth and the condo. Honestly, James wasn't really my type. To put it nicely, he was modern. To put it bluntly, he seemed a bit frivolous. I liked mature men who spoke quietly and seriously, but somehow I ended up falling for James. I always found that strange since James was the typical handsome guy, and it must have been easy for him to charm a woman, especially someone like me who was new to the workforce and not used to men. I fell for his tactics and ended up marrying him. This thought made me feel so frustrated and embarrassed. I felt like destroying everything in the house, but I wasn't foolish enough to act on that impulse. Instead, I decided to get revenge. To do that, I needed to endure this life a little longer. Just like James manipulated me, I planned to control his entire family. The condo we live in was bought by my father with a mortgage soon after I was born. It wasn't very expensive back then, but the area developed rapidly with a new shopping center nearby, and now it's considered a luxury condo. My parents, hoping for more children, bought a spacious condo. That's why there's enough room, even with James's family moving in. But even with its decent size, having James's family around is a nuisance for me, especially working from home. I'm enduring this only for the sake of revenge. As James's sister said, there's no mortgage payment for this condo. When I was 4, both of my parents died in a car accident. They were coming back from my paternal grandfather's funeral when they collided with a speeding car on the freeway. That day, I was supposed to go with my parents, but I caught the flu that was going around and had a high fever. So my maternal grandparents came to the condo where we lived with my parents to take care of me, leaving me as the only one who survived. The mortgage payments were covered by the group credit life insurance, so the only housing costs I pay are the management fees and property taxes. James, seeing the amount, said he would contribute just a bit more than that to our household expenses. There's no mortgage, so if I put in that much, we should manage with Olivia's income, right? We'll each use our own earnings for personal expenses. Sounds good, doesn't it? I agreed, thinking maybe he was right. Until then, I had been paying for everything by myself, so I thought his contribution would lighten my load. Looking back, it was foolish, but at the time, I was blinded by my love for James and just went along with whatever he said. James probably thinks he's the head of the household and the one supporting me, which is why he can so easily call me a parasite. But in reality, it's different. I pay for most of the expenses like utilities, food, social expenses, and entertainment. And now, 5 real parasites had been added to my household, making it impossible to manage with just that amount. I wanted to get rid of them as soon as possible, but I pretended not to notice and endured. I gritted my teeth and let James's family freely shop, reminding myself that I'll be the one laughing in the end. Then, 5 months after deciding to divorce, the day to act finally came. "I'm tired. Please decide, it's either me or your family," I told James, presenting him with a final decision. He was surprised, but I continued without concern. "None of your family members lift a finger to help around the house. They just dump all their chores on me. You know I work from home. I'm not just playing around. Yet they treat me like a freeloader and tell me to know my place since you're supporting me. I've had enough," I cried. I confronted James. He smirked at me and said, "Then you should leave. Didn't I tell you before? You're not really part of this family yet. Giving up like this means you didn't earn your place in the family." I acted shocked as I looked at him. "What are you surprised about? If you can't live with my family, then you're the one who has to leave. Oh, and since I'm not at fault, I'll take this apartment as alimony, and I'll take half of your savings as part of the property division." Ah, so that was his plan all along. That's why his whole family kept harassing me, trying to drive me out. I knew it, but hearing it said outright was still a shock. It was someone I once loved and even married, but thanks to this, I made up my mind. "Fine," I said, deciding to divorce James. "But this condo is mine, and I'm not at fault either." "What did you say the reason for the divorce is?" "You allowing your family to live with us without asking me and your family ignoring me," I said firmly to James. He seemed shocked that I outright rejected his proposal, not expecting such a response. It made sense, as I had always complied with his demands since our marriage. Thinking back on it made me angry. "I don't want to spend another second with you all, so I'll leave now, but you should also prepare to leave." "It's a joke, right? This is our home. We won't leave." "Ever heard of residential rights? You can't just force people out who live here," James shouted. Ignoring his ranting, I left the house and went to my grandparents' place. I explained everything and asked if I could stay until things were settled. My grandparents were shocked to learn what I had gone through and scolded me for not consulting them earlier. With tears in their eyes, I apologized. "Grandma, Grandpa, I'm sorry for worrying you, but I'll be okay now. I might look fragile, but I'm not really," I said, forcing a laugh with tears in my eyes. The day after I left the apartment, James contacted me right away. "Hey, what's this all about?" "What are you referring to?" I asked. "About the certified mail." I was impressed by how quickly things were moving. I had handed the divorce proceedings over to a lawyer, and when I told them yesterday that I was leaving the house, they arranged for everything to be sorted out today. "I'm not paying any alimony, and I'm not leaving the condo," James declared. But legally, he had an obligation to pay, and he didn't have the right to continue living in that apartment. "What are you talking about? That apartment is mine too, since we're married. If you insist, then pay me half its value to buy me out," he said. Such an absurd claim. Talking like this is getting us nowhere. "Please communicate through my lawyer from now on," I said, ending the call. I knew he would probably call again tomorrow, but I had no desire to talk any more that day. As expected, he called the next morning. "Hey, what's this all about?" He repeated the same line as yesterday, showing no creativity. "What are you referring to?" "The card's not working." "What did you do?" "What I did was cancel it. That card was mine, and you were just using the family card, remember?" Indeed, before leaving the house, I had switched all the contracts from that card to another and canceled it. Of course, the family cards would stop working when I canceled mine. I was the one paying for it. "Yes, you paid the apartment's management fee and property taxes, just for the first 4 months. It's not much, but I can deduct that from the alimony if you like," I mocked him. I heard some indistinct shouting from the other end of the phone. That's right, James only paid the agreed amount for just 4 months. He made various excuses about the store and whatnot, always finding a reason to ask me to wait, but then he stopped paying altogether. If he forgot and thought he was still paying, that's some poor memory. But I didn't care anymore. He's someone I'm cutting ties with. His memory doesn't matter to me. That's the situation, so please pay your half of the living expenses I've been covering. I've kept a detailed record of our household expenses, which I'll use as evidence to fairly divide our savings. It's marital property, he demanded. Yes, I understand. Let's split it accordingly, I agreed. He ended the call with a reminder not to forget. A few days later, I got another call from him using the same line. I realized they lacked not only memory, but also vocabulary. What do you mean by the split of shared property? Why is it 0? You must be rolling in cash from your parents' insurance and alimony, he said. Ah, so that's what they were thinking. I patiently explained that my savings before marriage weren't part of the shared property, and since we had no savings after marriage, it naturally amounted to 0. Don't lie to me. If you think I'm lying, why don't you consult with someone? From now on, please communicate through my attorney. I won't be speaking to you directly anymore. Goodbye, I said, then hung up the phone and blocked James's number. 1 month after I left the house, James and his family finally moved out of the apartment. Not because they had a change of heart, but because they couldn't sustain their lifestyle. Naturally, James's income alone wasn't enough for a family of 5. They were used to shopping extravagantly with my card. Telling them to cut back now was impossible. I had let them use the card intentionally for this, knowing it would come to this. His family started pestering James for shopping money, and when he refused, they began stealing from his wallet. Even when James got angry, they blamed him for kicking me out. To top it off, the electricity, gas, and water were all shut off. Of course, I had arranged for that since I didn't plan to live there for a while. James tried to get the utilities restored immediately by phone, but the house was in my name, so no one else could reconnect them if the owner had them stopped. During the hot summer and early fall, his family couldn't handle the extreme heat and eventually left the condo. Where they went, I neither know nor care. James tried to stay until the end, but he eventually gave up because there was no electricity and he couldn't bathe. The divorce proceedings went faster than expected, not because James had a change of heart, but because he made mistakes. He cheated on me while we were still married, or rather, he started making moves on someone thinking he could kick me out soon. He boasted about owning a luxury apartment in a prime location downtown, using it to attract young girls. It's surprising he did this while his family was around, but he had a history of such behavior, so they didn't mind. Before leaving, I had installed cameras in several places in the house, which captured all the evidence. Maybe he underestimated me, but he really did disrespect me. He brought his family into my home without my permission, made a family card, and left me the bill, kicked me out, and cheated on me. I demanded a hefty sum in alimony for all these. When James saw the amount, he turned pale and desperately pleaded for reconciliation, but I had no such intentions. Knowing he couldn't pay, I made him borrow as much as possible from his company and took whatever I could get. When I threatened to sue him for fraud over the family card, he reluctantly agreed to my terms. Well, I hope he does his best to pay off his debt. The divorce is finalized, and I'm still staying at my grandparents' place. I haven't decided what to do with the apartment yet. I might sell it. I treasured it because my parents left it to me, but since they passed away when I was very young, and I have no memories of them, plus all this has happened, I think they'd understand if I let it go. My work as an illustrator is picking up. I might live alone again, but it's a good time for that. I can work just fine staying at my grandparents'. I'll depend on them a little longer, then move forward with strength. Next time, I won't be fooled by a man who's only good-looking. I hope to find a partner I can share my life with. Kevin and Brian, though they were our sons, grew very close to Lisa. She misled them with lies, causing them to ignore us. After Lisa, Kevin, and Brian were asked to leave our home, my husband Michael suddenly passed away. When I told Kevin about his father's death over the phone, his reaction shocked me. He said, "Your dad passed away. You handle the funeral, Mom." I don't want to see the face of someone who kicked us out. We're having a great time here, so don't bother us. Just tell the relatives we can't come because of work or something." I was speechless. A week after the funeral, I got a letter from Michael addressed to me. He wrote, "Please read this without our sons knowing." As I read, I was filled with emotion. Lisa had caused so much trouble in our family, and Kevin and Brian didn't even come to their father's funeral. I couldn't let it end this way. My name is Olivia. I'm 56 years old, a housewife, and I also work full-time. I met Michael at a party for new employees at our related companies. I'm not much of a drinker, but I couldn't turn down the drinks I was offered and ended up feeling very sick. I was sitting in a corner, looking for a chance to leave when Michael noticed me. He started talking to me and even arranged a taxi for me. Later, I took a day off to thank him at his office. He was surprised to see me, but pleased. "Coming all this way just to say thanks. You're really thoughtful." We became friends, started dating, and eventually got married. We both longed for a warm family life. Michael had a tough upbringing, and I lost my parents when I was young. We believed we could be happy together, but living with each other brought unexpected challenges, mostly because of Michael's sister, Lisa. Before the wedding, I tried to meet her, but she was too busy. Our first meeting was at the wedding. Michael's parents had passed away, so it was a simple ceremony with just friends and relatives. Lisa drew attention in many ways. She wore a pure white dress that was quite revealing and had heavy makeup, like a stage actress, and wore lots of perfume. I tried not to show how upset I was, but Lisa either noticed or just didn't like me from the start. She didn't say hello and made fun of me. She said to Michael, "Couldn't you find someone better at your workplace? Having such a plain sister-in-law is embarrassing. But maybe she suits you, Mr. Super Serious." Michael looked like he wanted to argue, but a fight on our wedding day seemed like a bad sign. I said, "I'm fine, let's go get ready." I forced a smile and led Michael away. That was our awful first impression, but I didn't worry too much, thinking we would only see Lisa at family gatherings now and then. However, things changed dramatically. Soon after a short marriage, Lisa moved in with us because of her husband's cheating. She said, "My ex left, and I want to move out too. Our parents sold their place when I got married, so I can't go back to my parents' house. Can I stay at Michael's place for a while?" Michael was clearly annoyed and said, "Why don't you rent an apartment? You got plenty of alimony, right? Just let me stay until I find a nice place. I want to take my time, not settle for a rundown house." But in the end, Lisa just showed up with her stuff and moved in without asking. The main issue was Lisa didn't seem to realize we were taking care of her. She acted like it was her own house, which was very stressful for Michael and me. Lisa would go out every night, sleep until the afternoon, and then spend the day lounging on the living room sofa, playing with her phone or just watching TV. This was her routine until she went out again after dinner. Sometimes I took a day off and stayed home, so I saw this was what she did every day. When I came home tired in the evening after working all day, Lisa would ask in a complaining tone, "Hey, is dinner ready yet? How long until it's done?" I would say, "In about 50 minutes." She would reply, "That long? Hurry up, will you?" She also made rude comments about my cleaning, saying things like, "You're not very good at this," or "You're cutting corners." I share the cleaning duties with Michael. He's tired too. Lisa told me, as a wife, you should be doing all the household chores. I didn't want to complain to Michael about Lisa because I didn't want to ruin their relationship as siblings. But he noticed that I was becoming unhappy. When Michael asked me about it and I told him about Lisa's behavior, he got really angry. He told Lisa, "Don't overstep your boundaries. You're just a guest here." But Lisa just shrugged and said, "I'm just stating the obvious," and refused to help pay for household expenses. She said, "I'm still in shock from my husband's cheating. How can I work in this state? And you want to charge me? I can afford to pay for clothes and go out drinking." Lisa's attitude made both Michael and I very upset. My dream of a happy married life was turning into a nightmare because of her. Michael and I wanted to have kids soon, but it seemed like the stress over Lisa was getting in the way. We were even thinking about getting medical checks when I found out I was pregnant in our 6 years of marriage. We were so happy and cried tears of joy. Michael saw this as a chance to suggest Lisa move out. He told her, "We're going to need more space when the baby comes. Maybe it's time you move to your own place." Then Lisa asked me what I planned to do about work. I said I planned to return to work after a year of parental leave. She offered, "Well, I can look after the baby, but we plan to use daycare." I checked around and found out that all the daycares, even the unlicensed ones, had long waiting lists. A few months later, as my belly began to show, Lisa said confidently, "I'll take care of the baby until you get a daycare spot. I owe you, and I'll do it for free. It'll be tough on your finances if you quit your job." After discussing it, Michael and I reluctantly agreed to let Lisa help. I was very worried, but to my surprise, Lisa took excellent care of our newborn Kevin. She learned about childcare online, prepared his meals, and even took him to parks and community centers. She was so dedicated to Kevin, and it showed in how much he adored her. Even when our second son, Brian, was born 3 years later, Lisa's care didn't change. With Michael and me busy at work, we were thankful for her help with the kids. But as the boys grew older, they started to avoid us more. When we suggested going to the amusement park or having a barbecue for Brian's birthday, they would say, "Lisa already took us to a fancy place," or "We're going with Lisa to a high-end sushi restaurant." It was hard for Michael and me to see how excited they were about spending time with Lisa. Even after Kevin and Brian started elementary school, they preferred being with Lisa, even on weekends. They barely talked to us and acted like we weren't important, spending all their time playing games or going out with her. Things got even worse as Kevin got older. He openly showed he didn't like us, ignored us, and even made rude noises when we tried to talk to him. Once, when I told him not to eat while playing on his phone, he snapped at me, "Shut up, old lady." I was shocked to hear him say, "It would have been great if Lisa was our mom. She gives us money and takes us places." The boys even said being born to us was a mistake, and that they heard from Lisa we didn't really want kids. That hurt a lot. I calmly explained that Lisa, while not working and just living off her alimony, wasn't contributing financially. Kevin dreamily said that Lisa's lifestyle was something to aspire to, and added, "But she raised us right. Complaining about her seems weird." They even questioned if we wanted kids at all, believing Lisa's claim that we had them just out of obligation, which was not true. Michael and I always wanted kids, and Lisa had only offered to help until we found daycare. I was very upset and couldn't believe what Kevin was saying to me. He smirked when he saw how upset I was and said, "You guys are always so annoying, telling us to do homework and that we play too many games." Lisa says it's fine not to do homework and even stays up playing games with us until morning. I snapped back, "Lisa isn't responsible for your future. Your dad and I tell you these things because we care about you, even if it means you might hate us." "Yeah, right, you're just jealous because we're close to Lisa. How dumb. Maybe you shouldn't have let her take care of us." I felt like crying. When I looked up, I saw Michael at the doorway, his fists shaking. He asked, "Who do you think you're talking to?" "Oh, hey Dad. Working late again today? Must be tough with such a small salary." The boys laughed mockingly, leaving Michael speechless. "Finally, you talk to us, and it's just to mock your parents," Michael shouted. "Stop being so loud," Lisa called out as she came downstairs to the kitchen, looking annoyed. "Getting worked up over what kids say is so immature." "It's because you spoil them that they're like this," Michael yelled. "I've had enough. Get out now." "What? I've been nice to my nephews, and this is the thanks I get. If you're going to stay, then pay your way," Michael said. Lisa puffed up her cheeks and finally agreed. "Fine, I'll leave. Happy now?" Lisa, you're really leaving? No way. But Lisa quickly went to her room, packed her things in a suitcase, and came down to the entrance. I've put my clothes in boxes. I've arranged for movers this weekend. Leave it until then, okay? Lisa, are you really going? Yes, take care. She smiled at Kevin and Brian as they saw her off to the gate. Then she left. But it was too late to fix the relationship between us and our sons. As teenagers, Kevin and Brian became more rebellious. Kevin quit his job within a month after finishing high school, and 1 year later, Brian quit his job after just a few days. They talked about starting a business together and made some questionable deals, spending their money from odd jobs in one night. After a big argument, Michael kicked them out of the house. When you get a job, come back. No way we'll ever come back to this place. And so Lisa, who had caused so much trouble in our family, and the sons she influenced, Kevin and Brian, left, and it was back to just my husband and me. I was worried about how Kevin and Brian were doing, but without the four of them causing chaos, I felt relieved at the end of the year. Just as I was about to leave work and head home, I got a call from Michael's colleague. Are you Olivia? Michael collapsed at work. He's currently in the ICU at the city hospital. I said I would be there right away. I tried to stay calm and drove to the hospital. At the ICU, I waited in the hallway until the doors opened and a doctor in a white coat came out. He looked sad as he told me, "We did our best, but I'm sorry." I was too shocked to speak. That morning, Michael had left for work as usual. We had talked about keeping our schedule open for our anniversary next month. Sure, the usual restaurant. I have a surprise planned for this year. I never thought that would be our last conversation. Everything felt gray and meaningless as I stood there. I decided to contact Kevin, Brian, and Lisa to tell them Michael had passed away. I left a voicemail and sent a message. That night, Kevin called back while he was at a restaurant. I could hear music and laughter in the background. As I tried to tell him about his father, my voice shook. Kevin laughed and said, "The funeral and stuff? I'll leave it to you, Mom. I don't want to see the face of someone who kicked us out. We're having fun here, so don't bother us." I could hear Lisa chuckling in the background. "Just tell the relatives we're absent because of work. Say hi to them for us." I stood in shock for a while, holding the phone. Were these really Michael's sister and sons? Feeling empty, I knew I had to go ahead with the funeral arrangements. I got in touch with Michael's family and the funeral home we usually use to arrange a family funeral. Saying goodbye so suddenly didn't feel real, and I didn't cry during the funeral. But as everyday life continued, the pain of losing Michael kept hitting me. While making dinner, setting up to record a TV show we watched together, or making coffee, I'd accidentally make enough for 3 or start talking to him before realizing he was no longer there. That's when I couldn't hold back the tears. A week after Michael passed away, I was watering the flowers when the mailman arrived. I took the mail inside, and among the junk mail, I found an envelope addressed to me. The handwriting was unmistakably Michael's. Overwhelmed with emotion, I opened it. The letter explained that he had asked a friend to send this if something happened to him. After expressing his thanks for our years together, one line stood out, asking me to keep this from our sons. Moved by the letter and realizing how much Michael knew I worried about the kids, I wiped away my tears and decided to take action. Lisa had hurt our family, and Kevin and Brian hadn't even come to their father's funeral. I was determined not to let it end this way. Michael's letter mentioned a package in a safety deposit box at a bank near the station, and he included a key. I went to the bank, entered the safety deposit box area next to the ATMs, and nervously followed the instructions. I inserted the card, entered the PIN, and a part of the table opened to reveal the safety deposit box Michael had rented. I used the key, found everything Michael mentioned, and took them with me. Later, I invited Lisa, Kevin, and Brian to my house. I decided to share Michael's inheritance with everyone important to him. With the promise of inheritance, Lisa, Kevin, and Brian came quickly. They had skipped the funeral, but were eager for the inheritance, which showed their shamelessness. Lisa couldn't even wait while I was making tea. She blurted out, "Stingy Michael had an inheritance? Maybe he hid money because he was so stingy. Being stingy might not be so bad after all. I wonder if he put his inheritance in some account. I'm excited." Then she looked at me and smiled. "You did the right thing telling your sister-in-law." "Mom, stop beating around the bush. Is Dad's inheritance in jewels, maybe gold bars?" As they all fidgeted, I smiled and said, "Before that, please listen to this." I put an IC recorder and Michael's cell phone on the dining table, which confused them. "Is that Dad's cell phone? And what's this? An IC recorder? The kind used for investigating affairs? I see it on TV. Wait, did Dad have an affair?" Kevin laughed mockingly, but his smile vanished when I pressed play. Kevin's voice came through, talking on the phone. "Yeah, remember that old lady you met at our house? Lisa. She wears so much makeup and clings to me, calling me Kevin dear. It's gross, but she'll hand over money if you flatter her. There's a use for fools and old ladies." As Kevin froze, Lisa's face filled with anger. When the recording stopped, Lisa angrily asked, "What was that, Kevin?" He replied, "I don't know, a stranger maybe, or Dad recorded that voiceover." Lisa shouted, "Michael was too tech illiterate to do something like that." As Lisa and Kevin argued, Brian tried to leave quietly. I quickly played the second recording. "How much money did you get from Lisa?" $33,000. "Damn, I only got $3,000. What did you do?" "Gave her a bouquet of roses and a high-end bag for her birthday. Maybe I'll give her a fake brand next time. She can't tell the difference." Kevin and Brian laughed, revealing their true colors. "She loves getting gifts from men, even though she's almost 50. She still acts young, falling for every compliment from men she meets at the bar and spending a lot of money on them. She's an easy target, really foolish." The brothers didn't hold back in their ridicule, even mocking her blonde hair and her unrealistic dream of marrying a young Korean pop star, which they found creepy. Amidst Kevin and Brian's laughter, the recording suddenly stopped. Brian, with a forced smile, defensively muttered, "Man, when did Dad record this? And to show it to Mom after he's gone, that's just mean. Pretending to be a good guy, but those are the ones you can't trust." Even now, they continue to insult Michael, which made me very angry. Before I could speak, Lisa yelled at them, "You dare mock people? Who do you think raised you since you were kids? Don't mess with me." "See, that's what's so annoying about you, always acting like we owe you," they replied. Kevin and Brian's laughter made Lisa's ears turn red with anger. "Now it's your turn, Lisa. Having a favorite bar to go to, that's quite nice, isn't it?" As I reached for the IC recorder, Lisa's face tensed up. Without hesitation, I pressed play. First, lively music and clinking glasses. Then Lisa's high-pitched voice came through. "That's right. I've had my nephews wrapped around my finger since they were little, fill their heads with all sorts of nonsense about their parents. Kids are easy to manipulate." "Oh, Lisa, you're so clever," praised the man. Proudly, Lisa responded, "I'm single. I need them to take care of me in my old age. Look at my nephew, handsome, right?" "True, they look like models or pop stars," the man replied, growing more talkative. "I dream of my nephews feeding me, taking me on amusement park dates, even changing my diapers in the future." "Oh wow, going into a facility? No way, if I'm going to be looked after, it's by handsome men only. Can't wait." I stopped the playback and looked at Lisa. With Kevin and Brian's intense gaze upon her, she turned away. "So both my brother and his wife had nasty hobbies, recording things secretly. You were gallivanting around so much, I heard from relatives and got curious. After all, the alimony from your ex-husband should have run out after 24 years, yet you remained unemployed. So I hired a private investigator to look into your background." I explained what had been recorded. "Lisa, you really are quite a character. No, not funny at all. Creepy, really. What do you think of us? As the brothers cringed and hugged themselves, Lisa's eyes narrowed in anger. Shut up. I doted on you, spent my time and money. What's wrong with expecting something in return? Oh, you mean this? I said as I spread a bank book on the table, making Kevin and Brian's eyes light up. Oh, is this finally the inheritance? Well, sort of, I said suggestively, glancing at Lisa, who looked nervous and sweaty, her eyes darting around as if looking for a way to escape. I turned to Kevin and Brian. Remember what I told you before? Michael cut ties with his father before we got married, remember? Kevin nodded. Our grandfather, Dad's father, didn't work seriously. He relied on the family fortune and racked up a huge debt, I continued. That's right, I added. Michael's mother worked herself to death paying off those debts, right, Lisa? Yes, Lisa nodded. So the inheritance Michael received from wealthy relatives, he kept it a secret and deposited it in an account for you four. We never heard about this. If there was money, why didn't he tell us, they asked. He planned to proceed with the inheritance once you started working seriously. But before that, someone used it without permission, I explained. Kevin and Brian turned to look at Lisa. No way, they said. Yes, I continued, Lisa had been taking Michael's bank book and seal without permission during his lifetime and withdrawing money. Kevin and Brian looked at the bank book, which now showed $300,000 down to $20 in 2 years. Hey, what did you spend it on? They demanded. Well, this guy convinced me there was a great investment opportunity. I thought I could double it and pay it back. I just borrowed it, that's all, Lisa tried to explain as she squirmed under their gaze. Kevin and Brian exploded in anger. Don't joke, that was supposed to be our money. Just $300,000 and you're making a fuss? Considering the effort I put into raising you, you should be giving it to me for free, Lisa shot back defiantly. This made Kevin and Brian even angrier, their veins popping on their foreheads, looking ready to confront her. But that wasn't all about Lisa. I sighed and spread Kevin and Brian's bank books on the table. You both started working right after high school, so the college funds were left untouched. I was going to give it to you once you started working seriously, but this too was meddled with. Seeing only a few pennies left in their accounts, Kevin tore at his hair in frustration, and Brian almost cried. Damn it, woman, what you're doing is criminal. Yeah, we'll sue you, they threatened. Don't be silly, it's called family theft and doesn't count as a crime when done by a relative, Lisa replied, crossing her arms and legs and laughing annoyingly. I'll pay it back someday, maybe in the next life. You could be charged for it. That's why I called the police earlier, I said. At my words, Lisa's eyes widened in shock. Huh? Indeed, relatives living together can't be charged for crimes, which is why Michael kicked you out, planning to report you. Dumbfounded, Lisa asked in disbelief, You betrayed your husband's sister. Well, yes, that's what happened, I confirmed. Really unbelievable, after all I've done for you. How ungrateful, Lisa complained. Who's ungrateful here? I yelled back, silencing the room. I glared straight at Lisa, unleashing my fury. Because of you, our family is a mess. It's beyond repair. What are you going to do about it? Overreacting much, Lisa shrugged. I should have never trusted you and kicked you out sooner, I said. Then Lisa turned to Kevin and Brian, spreading a sinister smile across her face. I wanted to be a mom, huh? Since I couldn't become one, I thought I'd take your mom away from you too, out of spite. Kevin and Brian looked terrified. Are you okay in the head? Just stay away from me for good. That's a problem. I came today to borrow money from you, Lisa smirked. We're family, so we should help each other in times of need, right? Yeah, right, Mom. Suddenly Kevin and Brian, who had been furious moments ago, put on a smile. Actually, we're broke too. Got fired for talking back at work for taking a little unscheduled break. They're so arrogant, Brian and Kevin complained bitterly. I felt a headache coming on. Getting fired is what you deserve, huh? Why? Yeah, we got kicked out of our apartment, Kevin casually revealed. Didn't pay the rent, so we'll stay here for a while. That's okay, right? And cover our debts. Once we're debt-free, we'll start working seriously. Can't you lend us about $60,000? You're working after all. Faced with their brazen request, I was stunned. I felt a surge of anger. Don't mess around. I have nothing to lend to sons who skipped their father's funeral. I refused strongly, but they kept asking. Please, Mom, if you keep this up, I'll report you to the police too. Don't ever set foot in this house again. Just then, a police car siren stopped in front of the house. Lisa, trying to escape in a panic, ran into the police officers at the front door and was quietly taken away. Damn, are we going to get arrested too? Let's just get out of here for now, Kevin and Brian said. They glanced at me, standing firm, gave up on asking for money, and left. Kevin and Brian, realizing that the money Lisa had given them came from Michael and their own savings, seemed to have finally lost all affection for Lisa. I don't want to end up like them, they said, seemingly deciding to work seriously. But their laziness didn't disappear overnight. They kept calling me. Mom, I'm being pressed for payments at the bar. Can you lend me some money? I blew it all on horse racing. Can you lend me about $200,000? I got so annoyed that I blocked their contact information. Later, they tried to ask other relatives for money, but were shunned and denounced as heartless for not attending their father's funeral, leading to estrangement. Eventually, pursued by debt collectors for borrowing from shady sources, Kevin and Brian woke up and started working seriously. However, they had racked up so much debt that they were banned from the nightclubs and bars where they were regulars. Now shunned even at their favorite drinking spots, they complained, "We've lost all the fun in our lives." Lisa, being a first offender, paid a fine and was released quickly. However, the incident led to her being dumped by her boyfriend. Moreover, after repaying the embezzled money from Michael's, Kevin's, and Brian's accounts, she ended up with a huge debt. Lisa now works from early morning till late at night, looking exhausted. What I kept secret from Lisa and my sons was that Michael had left another item in the safe, a large pink diamond necklace, a prestigious heirloom passed down from his mother. As mentioned in his letter, it was intended as a gift for our 34th wedding anniversary next year. Fearing it might be found and sold by Lisa or my sons, Michael had kept it in the safe. When appraised, it was valued at $360,000, to my astonishment. I wouldn't sell it. It's a treasured gift from Michael. Although I hoped for a warm family, things didn't go as planned with my sons, and I lost my husband too. But Michael's memory is still alive in my heart. Moving forward, I want to live strong and cherish the memories of Michael. My sister sternly announced, "We no longer need you here. Please leave the place where you work from home. You're just living off us," with a tone that signaled she was done discussing it. My parents joined in, singing the same tune in unison, "Get out. We're tired of you and your dog always being in the way." "If that's how you feel, I'll just do what I want," I replied, my mind already plotting my next steps. Let me introduce myself. I'm Lisa, a 41-year-old single woman working as a freelance web designer. I can do my job from anywhere thanks to the internet and my home setup. I have my own space to work in, and I enjoy the freedom of managing my own time. Despite loving my job, my life was disrupted 5 years ago when my parents suddenly decided to visit me without notice. As soon as they walked into my house, they began to look around and soon started a conversation that hinted at major changes ahead. "This house is quite spacious, Lisa," my mother observed, looking around. "It almost seems like we could live here too." "And there's even a spare room," my father added. It seems a waste for Lisa to live in such a big house all by herself. Without asking me, my parents had made up their minds in their typical manner. They seemed to think moving in with me was settled without even considering what I might want. I had never planned to live with them, and I made my position very clear. "Hold on a moment, I have no desire to live with you," I said, puzzled by their assumption. "What are you even suggesting?" My father's face flushed red with anger as he sharply retorted, "You've taken over this house, claiming it was from your Uncle Michael, and you're trying to claim it as your own. There's a limit to how low you can go." I tried to set the record straight. I didn't take it over. I had a proper discussion with Uncle Michael, and he willingly transferred it to me, I explained. Despite my protests, my parents had already decided to move in. They insisted, "Our old house is falling apart, and it's no longer suitable for us to live there." Given that my mother didn't work and my father's income wasn't enough to cover major repairs, they saw no other option but to move into the house I had inherited from my Uncle Michael. Faced with their difficult situation, I couldn't just leave them homeless, so I reluctantly agreed to let them move in. Once they settled in, however, they didn't hesitate to make sarcastic remarks. "Hey Lisa, you're already in your 40s, aren't you? Don't you have any plans of getting married?" They would taunt, always pointing out my single status. I find great satisfaction in my work and am truly content with my life. Yet the people around me often express concerns about my relationship prospects. They suggest that I should follow in my sister's footsteps, who has taken a different path in life. Contrary to their expectations, my sister's married life has faced its own challenges. Nevertheless, I remain unfazed, reassuring them that I'm perfectly fine with how things are. It was during one such discussion that my mother, who had been eavesdropping, decided to butt in. "Hey, don't speak ill of your sister like that. Unlike you, she's married and even has a stable job at a company," she interrupted. Defending my own choices, I replied, "I might not be married, but I am doing a respectable job too." My mother wasn't convinced and continued her criticisms. "You're always just messing around on your computer. You're probably making money through some shady means, aren't you?" she accused. Despite their doubts and criticism, I continued to live my life according to my own terms, valuing my independence and the career I've built. I quickly responded, "Shady? I'm earning my living honestly through legitimate work. There's no need to worry." My mother was not pleased with my reply and scolded me sharply, "How dare you talk back to your mother? You really are the complete opposite of your sister." This constant comparison of me to my sister by our parents was something I had become used to. While my sister worked a temporary office job, I had chosen a different path that allowed me to work from home. Although I knew our parents' generation might not fully understand the concept of remote work, it still hurt to be consistently belittled. However, one day while I was preparing dinner, instead of my perpetually idle parents, the doorbell rang unexpectedly. To my surprise, it was my sister Carol, burdened with a massive amount of luggage. "Hub, Carol, what's going on? It's been a while," I greeted her, taken aback by her sudden appearance. "This is sudden, but I'll be living in this house from today," Carol replied with urgency. Baffled, I blurted out, "Living here from today? I didn't hear anything about this." Carol explained, "Didn't Mom and Dad tell you? I got divorced, so I'll be counting on you from today." Despite my initial shock, I tried to maintain a welcoming demeanor. Ignoring my startled reaction, Carol trudged upstairs and promptly claimed an empty room as her own. My parents sided with her, and I found myself powerless to object. From that moment on, my stress levels began to rise. Carol, after her divorce, had quit her job and spent her days speaking ill of me with our mother. "Hey Mom, isn't this dress cute?" Carol would ask, showing off her latest shopping find. "Oh yes indeed, Carol. You're so pretty, it will definitely suit you," our mother would respond enthusiastically. Then Carol would turn to me and remark, "Do you think so too? It's totally not something Lisa would wear, right?" Unable to escape their critical gaze, I continued to live my life without reacting to their taunts. Despite the desire to retaliate, I realized that it would only play into their hands. So I remained steadfast and unresponsive to their attempts to provoke me. One fine day, I knew I had to stay strong and keep focusing on my own happiness, regardless of the negativity around me. I found myself in a truly heartwarming situation when one of my closest friends became the proud owner of a litter of 4 adorable puppies. This significant event sparked a series of changes that would enrich my life tremendously. The moment I saw those precious pups, I felt a deep connection. After careful thought, I decided to adopt a little black Chihuahua from the litter. I named him Charlie. Charlie was a bundle of joy, his round eyes sparkling with mischief. Every time he looked at me, his tail wagged so vigorously, it seemed it might just detach in his excitement. I had always dreamed of owning a Chihuahua since I was a child, and finally having Charlie by my side brought immense happiness into my life. This was particularly true because I often worked from home, and Charlie's companionship provided a much-needed relief from the loneliness of my remote work days. From today onwards, you're Charlie, okay? Woof, I declared to him, solidifying our bond. Caught up in my excitement, I didn't discuss my decision to bring Charlie home with my family. After all, it was my house, and I was fully responsible for all the expenses related to Charlie's care and well-being. I saw no reason for them to object. However, as soon as I introduced Charlie to my family, my parents and my sister Carol began voicing their concerns. They expressed their displeasure, upset that they hadn't been informed about my intention to get a dog. Some even mentioned their dislike for the potential odors that dogs could bring into a home. My parents and Carol were quite vocal in their disapproval, I recalled. "Hey, we didn't hear anything about you getting a dog," they protested. "Dogs smell, don't they? I hate odors," someone added. "Lisa, how could you just bring a dog home without consulting us?" They continued to scold me. Despite their complaints, I stood my ground and firmly defended my decision. It's my house, and I decided that Charlie and I needed each other. His presence here is a source of joy, not a cause for complaints, I asserted. I was prepared to show them that Charlie's presence was a blessing, hoping they would soon see him as I did. I explained to them that Charlie wasn't some random street dog, he was a gift from a friend. I also emphasized that I was the one covering all the expenses for Charlie's care and maintenance, so they really had no grounds to complain. "What I choose to keep in my house is my business," I added firmly. "If you have any complaints, you're free to leave." Initially, their annoyance was clear. They were visibly frustrated and upset. However, within just a few hours, a miraculous change occurred. Charlie's undeniable cuteness completely won them over. They couldn't stop doting on him, playfully asking, "Aren't you cute? Are you mummies, daddies, or are you sissies? Look over here, sweetheart." It was as though their frustration had just evaporated into thin air. My entire family had fallen head over heels in love with Charlie, and his presence managed to bring about a remarkable transformation in their attitudes. From that point on, our home was filled with constant adoration for Charlie. Thanks to him, the previous hostility directed towards me began to fade, and I was able to enjoy relatively calm and harmonious days with my family. However, as life tends to go, a disruptive event occurred one day that broke the peace we had come to enjoy. While I was out running an errand, I received an urgent call from my sister Carol. She sounded agitated and demanded, "Come back home now." Startled by her urgent shout, I asked her what had happened. She unleashed her frustration over the phone, shouting back, "It's not what happened, it's what Charlie did. He did his business on my clothes. What if they smell?" I tried to calm her down, saying, "Oh, just wash them quickly and they'll be fine. And isn't it your fault for leaving your clothes all over the floor?" Carol retorted, "What? It's my fault? It's your poor training that's to blame." I sighed, realizing that this was just a minor hiccup. "Enough, Carol. Charlie is still a puppy, you know. If you take him out for a walk, he won't do his business at home. You said you were excited to walk Charlie today, didn't you? Did you actually take him? I had originally planned to take Charlie for a walk later in the day, but I didn't realize this decision would trigger a series of events that would throw my family into chaos. The core issue was that I hadn't fully trained Charlie, our beloved dog, and the consequences of this oversight were about to unravel. When I returned home, I walked into a home filled with tension. My sister Carol, clearly furious, confronted me immediately. Her anger was evident, and it was clear she had already briefed our parents about the mishap, as they too glared at me, standing amid Carol's now soiled clothes scattered across the floor. Carol, distraught, threw the soiled garments at me in a fit of frustration. "I'm going to charge you for the cleaning costs," she declared angrily. "Why should I pay?" I retorted. "It's because you didn't take him for a walk and left your clothes all over the floor." My parents quickly joined in, urging me to take responsibility. "Lisa, shouldn't you at least apologize to Carol?" they suggested. "All of this happened because of that Charlie you brought home." As the accusations continued, I couldn't help but defend Charlie. "Can't we give Charlie some slack? Puppies are like babies. They make mistakes sometimes." But my family seemed determined to blame me and Charlie. "This situation only happened because of this stupid dog," my sister snapped again. "Lisa, you made the right choice by not getting married if you became a mother. I doubt you'd raise a decent child." Her comments grew harsher, and my frustration mounted. "How dare you say something like that?" I exclaimed. "If you had taken him for walks properly and kept the house tidy, none of this would have happened." Finally, my sister reached her limit. She pointed at me and declared, "I can't take this anymore." The situation had escalated beyond simple pet mishaps to personal attacks, revealing deeper family tensions. Despite the hostility, I knew it was essential to remain calm and address each issue thoughtfully, prioritizing Charlie's training and our family's need for better communication and understanding. "I don't need you or this dumb dog. Get out of this house." The words struck me like a ton of bricks. "What?" I stammered in disbelief. "Didn't you hear me? I said get out. We don't need a home-wrecking freeloader here," my sister continued harshly. Her accusation cut deeply, especially since she knew all too well that I was currently without a job. I was stunned. Who did they think was covering the household expenses? It was me. As I stood there, bewildered by my sister's outrageous claims, even my parents joined in, supporting her view. "That's right, Lisa. Leave this house. Your presence only makes us feel worse," they echoed. I had reached my breaking point. "You're all jinxes. Just get out," they shouted together, their voices echoing off the walls. "That's it. I've reached my limit," I finally burst out. "If this is how it's going to be, just wait." With that declaration, I decided to take control of the situation. I quickly packed my belongings and left the house with Charlie wrapped in a towel. As I walked away, thoughts of revenge flickered through my mind, but I knew this saga was far from over. A few days later, as expected, my sister reached out to me in a panic. "Lisa, help. What happened to the house all of a sudden?" she asked, her voice filled with anxiety and desperation. Curious about this new twist in our ongoing family drama, I inquired, "What happened? Why do we suddenly have to leave?" "We were told to leave by the end of this month," she replied, her voice trembling with stress. The realization hit me hard, and I couldn't help but wonder if this was the universe's way of teaching my family a lesson about compassion and understanding. So what's the problem here? Why do we suddenly have to leave?" Carol's voice quivered as she struggled to grasp the situation. "I've made the decision to sell the house," I told her firmly. I stated calmly, and Carol froze, disbelief clear in her trembling voice. "What do you mean you've decided to sell it? You don't have the authority," she stammered. "A month ago, the house officially became mine, a fact I had kept to myself until now," I explained. "Yes, I received the house from Uncle Michael, and the title is in my name," I revealed, causing Carol to react with shock. "You're kidding, right?" Her skepticism was evident. "Even if the title was transferred to you by Uncle Michael, you can't just sell it like that," she argued. "I understand your concern," I reassured her, "but right after you told me to leave, I consulted with Uncle Michael. He made it clear that the house is mine now, Lisa. He told me to do what I want and suggested I get away from the family as soon as possible." Carol was taken aback, struggling to process this unexpected revelation. "What? No way," she muttered. As our conversation continued, I suspected my parents might be listening in through the phone speaker. Soon enough, they began to voice their objections. "Hey, Lisa, cut it out. We have no other place to live if we leave the house," they interjected, trying to appeal to my sense of family loyalty. "That's right, Lisa. It's unthinkable to do this to your own family. If you're a good daughter, show some respect to your parents," they added. With a quiet but firm tone, I responded, "Respect? What are you talking about? You've always looked down on me compared to Carol. Who do you think has been supporting your life for the past few years? You all had nowhere to live, so I reluctantly let you stay with me." My parents were momentarily silenced by my strong response. Without waiting for their reply, I contemplated the implications of my decision, ready to enforce the boundaries that were long overdue. I continued, "Who treated me and Charlie like nuisances and kicked us out? It was you, wasn't it? Trying to drive out the original resident is shameless." My father, his voice full of plea, responded, "Please, Lisa, help us. We're sorry." But I had had enough. "I don't care. Fend for yourselves," I said resolutely. With that, I abruptly ended the call and blocked all my family members' contacts. Charlie, my loyal canine companion, looked up at me with a worried expression. I held him close and whispered, "I'm sorry, Charlie, for shouting. It's all right now. I will protect you." I felt relieved that I had rescued Charlie from a family that had mistreated him. In the days that followed, I learned that my parents and sister had been forced to leave the house at the last minute despite their desperate attempts to cling to it. My father's meager income and my unemployed mother and sister made it impossible for them to maintain a decent life. Rumors circulated that my sister was constantly pressured by my parents to find a job, and their family relationships deteriorated further each day. While I had no interest in their living conditions, it was clear that their standard of living had plummeted since my departure. It was a classic case of reaping what they had sown, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication. Meanwhile, I enjoyed a fulfilling life in my new pet-friendly apartment, free to work on my terms without anyone complaining. All my earnings were solely for myself and Charlie. I was genuinely content with my life. "Charlie, let's go to the dog park today," I said with a smile. Charlie seemed livelier, perhaps because that noisy family was no longer a part of our lives. From that day forward, I was determined to protect Charlie for the rest of our lives and lead a peaceful and happy existence. "More champagne, Mom?" Larry asked, refilling my glass before I could even answer. I gave a hesitant smile, nervously glancing at my son and his fiancée. We were having a small family dinner to celebrate their engagement, but something didn't feel right in my stomach. "To your happiness, Laura," I said, raising my glass. Laura clinked her glass against mine with a purr. I took a big sip. "There's something we want to talk about tonight," Larry said, sharing a knowing look with Laura. "We're planning a big engagement party next month. Only the best for us." I laughed a bit nervously. "That sounds wonderful for you both. But aren't those parties expensive?" "Oh, we're not paying for it," Laura said casually, waving her hand. "That's going to be your gift to us." I almost choked on my drink. "I'm sorry?" "As Larry's mother, it's your duty to pay," Laura continued. "We expect you to chip in at least $30,000. Consider it an investment in your son's future." They couldn't be serious. $30,000 for a party? I asked, shocked. "Do you realize how unreasonable that is?" "Don't be ridiculous, Mom," Larry cut in. "You make good money, and you have all that inheritance from Dad. You've been saving it all." The mention of my husband, who had recently died from cancer, felt like a fresh wound. I pulled back, hurt by their harsh words. "That money is my savings for retirement and to cover my expenses. You didn't even discuss this with me first." Laura rolled her eyes dramatically. "Still on about being consulted? Get over it already. You're the mother of the groom. This is what's expected. Just pay up and be happy we're even letting you help." "You should feel honored we're inviting you," Larry sneered. "Just write the check so we can start planning." I sat there stunned, unable to believe their arrogance and lack of care. I tried once more to reason with my son. "Honey, be reasonable. You can have a nice party without it costing so much. Maybe we can cut back a little?" Larry slammed his fist on the table, making the glasses shake. "I knew you'd be stingy," he yelled. "Some mother you are, not even supporting your only son." Tears filled my eyes as I faced their scornful looks. I had always pampered Larry, but I never thought he could be so cruel and disrespectful. I stood up quickly, feeling disgusted by the two unpleasant people in my home. "I think you should leave now," I said in a low voice. Laura jumped up and grabbed my shoulders with her sharp red nails. "Don't even think about shirking your responsibilities," she hissed, her breath heavy with perfume assaulting my nose. "Pay up, or you can forget about having a relationship with Larry and seeing any future grandchildren." I pushed her off forcefully. "Get out," I yelled. "Leave my house this instant." They left without another word, but I caught them smirking triumphantly at each other. My heart sank as I realized the engagement celebration I had hoped for would only bring greed, manipulation, and pain. The next evening, tired from a long day at work, but determined to resolve the conflict, I prepared a simple pasta dinner, hoping for a frank discussion with Larry. I heard the front door slam and braced myself as loud footsteps approached. "Something smells good," Larry said as he walked into the kitchen and headed straight for the wine cabinet. My hopes lifted briefly, then faded as Laura followed him in, reeking of strong perfume. So much for a private chat. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" I asked, trying to sound calm as I drained the pasta. "You're going to love what we have planned," Laura said cheerfully, ignoring my tone as she dug through her flashy handbag. "We met with the wedding planner today, and everything is set. All we need is one little thing from you." She pulled out a folder stuffed with brochures and invoices. "Just sign here for the $70,000 wedding package." I froze, a chill running down my spine. $70,000, I exclaimed. "For a one-day event? That's absurd." "It's our special day," Larry complained. "Don't I deserve the best?" I tried to appeal to his better nature. "Son, be reasonable. Let's have a small, meaningful ceremony instead of this extravagance." Laura slammed the folder down. "You clueless fool. Who said you have a say in this?" she screamed. "You'll pay every penny to give your only son the wedding of his dreams." Anger surged within me, but before I could respond, we all turned in surprise to see my daughter Linda standing in the doorway, looking determined. I was so caught up in the argument that I didn't even notice her come in. "Stay out of this," Laura snapped at my daughter, Linda, who is a bold, tattooed graphic novelist. "This doesn't concern you." "The hell it doesn't," Linda shot back. "You don't talk to my mother like that." She walked over and stood next to me protectively. Normally, I might have been a bit upset by her stepping in. I've always tried to be the strong, independent head of our family. But right then, I was grateful for her support. Larry threw his hands up dramatically. "I ask for one simple wedding, and my whole family turns against me." He pointed at Linda. "This is all your fault. You're filling Mom's head with crazy ideas. She owes me this money and her loyalty." Linda crossed her arms. "Mom owes you nothing but basic respect, which you clearly can't give back," she said. "She raised you all by herself after Dad died, working hard to give you every chance in life. And this is how you thank her? By using her?" Larry had no comeback, just mumbled under his breath. Linda turned to me, holding my hand firmly. "Stay strong, Mom. Set your limits and demand the respect you deserve. I'm here for you." Feeling a surge of relief, my doubts washed away by my daughter's firm support, I stood up taller. "You both have two choices," I said loudly to Larry and Laura. "Treat me and my daughter with basic decency, or leave our lives for good." Laura opened her mouth, probably ready to say something harsh, but then she saw Linda's stern look and thought better of it. She grabbed Larry by the ear and dragged him out. I squeezed Linda's hand, tears of gratitude in my eyes. "How did I get so lucky to have a daughter like you?" She gave a wry smile, just being a chip off the old block. "Now, let's eat that pasta and plan our next move. These jerks don't know who they're dealing with." The next week was tough, filled with uncertainty. My phone buzzed nonstop with demanding texts and voicemails from Larry, angry when I didn't call back right away. I started ignoring his calls, not having the energy to deal with his rants. When Saturday afternoon arrived, I decided to treat myself to a manicure to cheer myself up. As I relaxed and the technician worked on my nails, my phone buzzed again. Normally, I would ignore it, but this time, I saw it was Larry's number and curiosity got the better of me. "Hi, honey," I answered cautiously. "It's your witch of a mother," came Laura's harsh voice instead, making my blood start to boil. I was about to hang up when I heard Larry in the background. "Is the old bag actually taking your call? She's been dodging mine all week." Then Larry's voice came through clearly. "Mom, what the heck? I've been calling nonstop. Have you thought more about funding the wedding? The coordinator is on my case." I was ready to say no firmly, but Laura cut me off. "Oh, forget it already. She's clearly a lost cause." I heard a slap, like she swatted his arm. "Your mother is a selfish old prune. Once we're married, we'll change all the account passwords so she can't touch our money." My eyes widened. "Our money?" More noise followed. Then Laura sneered. "Why are we even inviting her to the wedding? She'll just show up in some cheap outfit from a discount store." Their loud laughter made my blood boil, but Larry's next words were worse. "Right, and she'll complain about helping us, as if that tiny insurance payout compares to what I make in a month." I was furious. That tiny payout was nearly $500,000 I had saved for retirement, not wasted like my irresponsible son. Laura laughed loudly. "Oh please, we both know it was your dad's money that got you that job. Your mom couldn't handle money without a man's help." "Absolutely," Larry laughed. "And we're using that inheritance money way better, like our first-class trips to Australia." Their laughter enraged me. I pressed the red button on my phone so hard, I almost cracked the screen. Hearing their cruel words confirmed my suspicions and shook me deeply. My hands shook with anger and outrage. I quickly waved off the concerned looks from the nail technician, threw some cash on the counter, and rushed out the door. I drove home as fast as I could, filled with the need to talk to someone about what happened. Thankfully, Linda was already there, her motorcycle parked unevenly on the driveway. I burst through the front door, and Linda jumped up from the couch, surprised by my upset look. I poured out the whole story, feeling enraged. Linda's green eyes flashed with anger. "Those deceivers," she shouted. "I knew it. They never cared about family or celebration. They just see you as a money source." "I feel so betrayed and used," I said, feeling bitter and trying not to cry. "My own son, how could he?" Linda took me by the shoulders, looking me in the eye. "Mom, listen. We need to get proof and expose these lowlifes for who they are." She slapped her hand with her fist, showing she meant business. "Contact the wedding planner. Get all the documents showing plans made without your oak. I'll look into Laura's background too. I bet her family is rich despite her act." I felt hope and courage rise in me again. Linda was right. It was time to take control and fight back. I hugged her tightly, more thankful than ever for her honesty and strength. "Let's expose them," I said. Over the next 4 weeks, Linda and I collected a lot of evidence showing Larry and Laura's dishonesty. Linda found out that Laura came from a very wealthy family. Her dad owns a big real estate investment company and could easily pay for their extravagant wedding. Meanwhile, I got financial records from the wedding planner showing the huge costs Larry and Laura wanted me to cover $95,000 and counting. "We have everything we need to confront these cheaters," Linda announced, spreading the papers on the dining table. "Let's invite them over to talk about wedding plans, and then reveal what we know," she suggested, her eyes shining with determination. I called them, pretending I was ready to discuss paying for the wedding. They took the bait and agreed to come right away. They arrived on time, the doorbell ringing loudly. Larry and Laura walked in, as usual, full of arrogance and the smell of expensive perfume. "Where's my check?" Larry demanded immediately, never one for subtlety. Laura elbowed him, then put on a fake sweet smile. "Yes, do tell us the good news," she said cheerily. "We have so many decisions to finalize for our big day." I gestured for them to sit down. Linda quietly handed me a thick manila envelope full of damning evidence. My heart raced, but I felt determined. I clasped my hands tightly on the table. "Before we discuss any more plans, I have some concerns," I said. I pulled the papers from the envelope and spread them out in front of me. According to the wedding planner, the current expenses total $95,000. "Can you explain this?" I asked. Laura scoffed loudly. "It's the wedding of the century. What do you expect?" "I expect honest communication about money and shared responsibility," I replied calmly. "For example, why don't Laura's very wealthy parents contribute their fair share?" I showed them a copy of her dad's business profile, showing he was worth tens of millions. They could easily afford it. Laura turned pale, and Larry got angry. "Leave Laura's family out of this. It's my wedding, my financial support," he said, pointing at me. "And you're my mother, so just write the check." Expecting their denial, I calmly slid over a pile of invoices and contracts. Actually, these documents show otherwise. They have my forged signature authorizing $230,000 in non-refundable payments so far. Care to explain that? Laura gasped. "Are you accusing us of fraud?" From beside me, Linda slammed her fist down. "Damn right she is," she shouted, surprising them into silence. She then spread out the rest of the contents from the envelope: bank statements, screenshots, phone records. Clear evidence of their lies and manipulation lay scattered dramatically across the table. "It's all here, clear as day," Linda said with disgust. "You've been exploiting my mother's love and trust, never caring about family, just what you can get from her." "You were spying on us," Larry said in outrage. "Collecting evidence against your fraud," I corrected calmly. "And now you'll cancel this sham wedding immediately." Laura jumped up furious. "How dare you?" she yelled. "I will marry Larry with or without your money." She turned to my son, expecting support. But Larry just sat there, pale and quiet, overwhelmed by the revelations. Finally, Laura rolled her eyes. "You're spineless mama's boy," she muttered, grabbed her flashy handbag and stormed out. At the doorway, she turned to give one last angry look. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "We won't forget." Then she left in a huff, the smell of her perfume lingering in the air. I looked straight at my shaken son. "Nor will we," I said quietly. "Now leave." He got up quickly, but before he left, he mumbled a soft yet clear threat: "I'll make you pay for this." The day I had dreaded finally arrived: Larry and Laura's lavish wedding. Despite our previous confrontation, they went ahead with their extravagant plans, using even more of the retirement money I had put in Larry's accounts. So there I sat, a reluctant participant in their over-the-top wedding. All around me, guests who had drunk too much wandered under extravagant floral decorations that cost more than my first car. The highlight was an 8-tiered cake decorated with handcrafted sugar flowers. Larry and Laura's smug faces were displayed above everything in a huge golden frame. Next to me, Linda slouched in her ripped jeans and combat boots, her pixie-cut green hair standing out against the pastel bridesmaid dresses. We watched the lavish event unfold, barely hiding our disgust. Then, the music changed to a grand wedding march, and the crowd quieted as Larry took his place under a brightly decorated arch. My heart tightened. He looked so much like his father, handsome in his tuxedo, radiating charm. There was no sign of the greedy boy I had confronted weeks ago. As Laura walked down the aisle in a fancy dress that I suspected was charged to my credit card, old memories and sadness surged within me. Over 28 years ago, I had walked that same path, full of naive dreams of love and family that quickly turned sour. My faith in love had faded with my husband's death, and now, the son we had raised showed me the same cold disregard. As the ceremony went on, anger built inside me. I would not stay silent or support this loveless marriage any longer. I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping loudly across the polished floor. Everyone looked at me. Linda took my hand, giving me strength. Clearing my throat, I met Larry's shocked look. "I apologize, but I cannot stay silent about this farce," I declared. The guests murmured in shock. Larry's face turned red, and he looked embarrassed under my stern gaze. Before he could say anything, Laura pushed past him, her eyes full of anger. "How dare you ruin my perfect day?" she shouted, coming toward me with her hands raised aggressively. I stepped back, recoiling from Laura's hostile energy. Linda immediately stepped in front of the bride. "Back off," she said firmly, standing protectively in front of me. A surprised murmur spread through the room. No one else moved to help. Larry kept his head down, not looking at me, and didn't try to stop Laura. My heart broke. All illusions were gone. I no longer had a son. The greedy, cowardly stranger in front of me would never again receive my support or resources. I moved past Linda to speak to everyone. "Let all bear witness to this fake, pretentious wedding," I said loudly. I refused to support these deceivers any longer, and I cut all ties. This farce ends now. I turned and walked briskly to the exit, my skirt swirling dramatically. As I passed my shocked son, I paused long enough to echo his earlier threat, "You'll regret this." Then I walked away confidently, Linda right beside me, our footsteps echoing a firm departure from that toxic place. We stepped into the dim sunlight outside, the doors closing behind us, cutting off Laura's angry shouts. I took a deep, freeing breath. Relief washed over me as Linda and I got into her car. "Thank you for being there with me," I told her, patting her tattooed hand. She smiled slightly. "Are you kidding? I've wanted to stand up to Laura for years." As we drove away from the extravagant deceit, tears came to my eyes, but this time they were tears of relief, not sadness or regret. Looking at my brave, loyal daughter smiling back at me, I knew I would never be alone again. In the months after that disastrous wedding, I changed my phone number, moved to a new place, and shifted my remaining assets, cutting off all contact with Larry and his toxic bride. I heard through rumors that they had their honeymoon in Australia, likely using what was left of my retirement savings. Let them indulge, I thought bitterly. Reality will catch up soon. Sure enough, just a year later, Larry showed up at my doorstep. I came home to find him sitting there, unshaven and smelling of stale cigarettes. I was so surprised that I froze, my grocery bag slipping from my hands. Larry's eyes showed a flash of embarrassment. He tried to help me pick up my things, then said quietly, "Hey Ma, can we talk?" I walked past him, without a word, to unlock my front door, motioning for him to come inside. He lingered awkwardly as I slowly put away the groceries, steeling myself before finally speaking. "What do you want?" I asked bluntly. Larry cleared his throat. I need your help, just temporarily," he quickly added, as if that made his request any less bold. "I'm between jobs right now, and Laura is upset because I can't cover her expenses." Absolutely not, I said sharply, cutting off his rambling. I crossed my arms, feeling both anger and satisfaction. You made this mess, now deal with it. Larry looked shocked, not used to such a direct denial. Come on, Ma, I'm really struggling here. Can't you lend me a few thousand? I'll pay you back, I swear. I stood firm, unmoving. You never planned to pay me back the first time you emptied my accounts, I reminded him coldly. Why should I believe you now? He blushed. I was wrong before, okay, but I'm still your son. With a swift motion of my hand, I cut him off. You lost that privilege long ago. I have no son, I declared, pointing at him. Now you face the consequences. Get out. He tried to speak, but no words came out against my firm disgust. With drooping shoulders, Larry left my house and my life once again. It was about time he experienced the reality of his actions. I locked the door quickly, feeling a rush of vindication before any pity or regret could set in. There was no forgiving someone who repeatedly betrayed me. Larry's pitiful state was proof that karma was catching up with him. I later heard that his fancy tech startup had failed within a year, and my business contacts had shunned him. No investor wanted anything to do with his dubious schemes. Meanwhile, Laura returned to her wealthy father after too many arguments over unpaid bills. The last I heard, she was planning to divorce Larry and was involved with a wealthy older man in Sanremo. That night, Linda and I toasted to their misfortunes over cocktails, laughing about the rumors that Larry was now working in fast food under a fake name. Karma's a harsh one, Linda said, raising her glass. Here's to it continuing to bite those who deserve it. I happily clanked my glass against Linda's. No truer words have been spoken, I agreed. Over the next year and a half, Linda's career took off. More and more high-profile clients wanted her unique tattoo designs and graphic novels. She even got a book deal for her bold memoir about our family struggles, which was creating a buzz before it even hit the shelves. Behind the scenes, Linda trusted me with her growing finances. At her request, I used my years of experience to secure trademarks, negotiate publishing rights, and maximize her profits. I was so proud to see her passions thrive with my help. Linda started appearing in trendy fashion magazines and was featured in popular graphic anthologies. She bought a stylish loft downtown, which served as her business hub and showcased the impressive views she had earned with her talent. To celebrate Linda's success, I planned a small party at her chic new place. It would mark her as a true artistic force and independent businesswoman. Linda welcomed the guests with a bit of nervousness, so I reassured her as I adjusted her blazer. Just be yourself. Everyone here already loves you. Soon, the loft was filled with Linda's creative friends, including daring writers, top publishers, edgy photographers, and even some famous faces from her celebrity clients, all there to celebrate their favorite artist. My heart swelled with pride hearing such influential people praise my daughter. This was the kind of launch party Larry could only dream of. 3 years ago, our family name was damaged by selfish actions, but now, thanks to Linda's hard work, we had gained respect and admiration at the highest levels of the art world. Late in the evening, I joined Linda on the balcony, looking out over the city lights. She squeezed my hand. None of this would have been possible without you, Mom. You believed in me when no one else did, and fought for me. I'll always owe you. I hugged her, holding my champagne flute. Nonsense, my brave girl. Your success is all because of your talent and vision. I just handled the business side, so you could focus on creating. Linda smiled. Well, I definitely got your business sense and Dad's creative flair, she joked, clinking her glass with mine. Here's to us, beating the odds and staying strong together. I laughed happily, feeling a deep joy as a mother. My daughter and I had survived tough times of greed and betrayal, and now we were thriving on our own success. As the party went on, I quietly raised my glass to the sky, thinking of her late father. We had indeed created a wonderful legacy, one built on integrity, courage, and hard work, not entitlement or manipulation. This legacy stood as a shining example to others, making the likes of Larry envious for years to come. Over the next 3 years, Linda's career continued to rise brilliantly. Meanwhile, I heard through the grapevine that Larry was struggling with obscurity and growing debt. His extravagant lifestyle hung on until his credit ran out and everything fell apart. Occasionally, I'd hear about Larry in the gossip columns, from Laura's very public affair to him getting fired from a car dealership for missing payments. I took these stories with quiet satisfaction, confident that our paths would never cross again. I had retired from my corporate role to focus on my passions, pursuing artistic hobbies, helping disadvantaged youth, and planning trips around the world. I also decided to move to a more manageable home and found the perfect place in a scenic coastal senior community. Surrounded by mature trees and vibrant gardens, I enjoyed peaceful walks with close friends, finding a new sense of tranquility. Meanwhile, Linda found her match in Riley, a brilliant software developer who loved her spirited nature. I saw true partnership potential in him right away, and my feelings were confirmed when they moved in together. Soon after, Linda excitedly showed me the unique ring Riley had designed, announcing their engagement. "My darling girl," I said, my eyes tearing up with joy, "I'm thrilled you found someone who deserves your big heart." Linda described her dream of a small garden wedding, much like my own vision from decades ago. No extravagant displays, just a deep, lifelong commitment surrounded by loved ones. I held her hand, emotionally moved by how beautifully she was realizing the dreams her father and I once had. Later, as we planned the wedding over tea and biscuits, Linda hesitated, then mentioned a difficult topic. "Mom, about inviting Larry." I quickly waved off the idea. "Let's not ruin your special day by bringing him into it," I said firmly. Linda looked conflicted. "I just can't help but feel sorry for him, you know. He's clearly a mess, but he's still family even if he doesn't deserve it." "I wonder if including him would be the right thing," Linda said, trailing off, unsure. Seeing my daughter's compassion, even for someone who hadn't shown her the same, I patted her hand reassuringly. "You shouldn't have to compromise your kindness. If it eases your mind to show Larry some small mercy, I can handle his presence just this once." Linda exhaled in relief and squeezed my hand, thankful. "You're the best, Mom. I knew you'd understand." Our sentimental moment was suddenly interrupted by my ringing cell phone. I was surprised to see Larry's name flash across the screen. It had been months since his last call, a desperate plea for money. With a grim face, I silenced the call. "Speak of the devil," I remarked. Linda shook her head. "He never stops trying to come back in. But don't worry, Mom. After the wedding, you'll never have to deal with his mess again." I smiled at Linda's protective words. She was right. It was time to stop listening to Larry's self-pitying attempts. I now had everything I needed right here, in a peaceful life surrounded by people who nurtured my spirit. No remnants from a toxic past could change that. I patted Linda's hand firmly. "Onwards and upwards, my dear. Now, tell me more about those lovely flower arrangements you've been thinking about." "Thanks for quitting," Olivia sneered and looked at me. I just silently stared back at her. "It's about cutting labor costs. We don't need someone who exploits overtime pay at our company." Jerry seemed pleased too. A week later, I kept getting calls from the company. "Hello," I answered. The president spoke. "Who exactly are you?" I laughed mockingly at his words. "I am Nicole Wallace. I'm 57 years old. I've been working at this company for 35 years, since graduating from college. Our company is staffed with administrative scriveners, social insurance labor consultants, and tax accountants handling clerical work for our clients. This is especially popular with company presidents who run their businesses alone. These presidents are busy with sales and lack the time for clerical work, so our company takes care of it for them. I belong to the tax department. I got my bookkeeping and tax accountant qualifications during my school days, and that's why I joined this company. Now I'm managing 41 clients, which keeps me quite busy. Even though a part-timer handles the accounting entries, it's still overwhelming. But I can't show any weakness. Our clients are all long-term relationships, and many of them have had their fair share of hardships. Seeing them face adversity, I feel I can't lose either. So here I am in front of my computer again today. Lately, I've been troubled. Jerry and Olivia have been harassing me. Jerry, 6 years younger than me, is the head of the tax department. He used to be just a regular colleague, but his attitude changed drastically 5 months ago when he got promoted. He used to speak politely, but suddenly he started talking down to me. "Nickel, what are you doing? You've got some nerve slacking off during work hours." He's always either sarcastic or complaining. I'm looking at documents for tax-saving strategies for our clients. When I talked back, Jerry stayed calm. "Just check the manual for that. Don't do anything unnecessary, and if you end up working overtime, don't expect to get paid for it," he said, glaring at me. Unable to respond, I heard Olivia, Jerry's assistant, say, "Nickel, you should work more efficiently. At this rate, you'll never finish. That's why you're still a regular employee." Olivia laughed mockingly. I was the first to be offered the promotion to department head, but I declined. Becoming the head meant more time for management and less for client interaction. It was an internal offer, so Jerry and Olivia didn't know about it. "I'll make sure to complete my regular duties as well," I managed to say. Still, Jerry and Olivia's harassment continued. "You're increasing overtime again." "What a waste of overtime," Jerry's angry voice echoed today. "Nickel, cut it out. Your constant overtime is dragging down the whole tax department's performance," Olivia sighed. The reason for yesterday's overtime was simple. Jerry had accumulated a month's worth of declaration forms to be filed by the end of the month. After work yesterday, Jerry suddenly said, "Take care of these," and left several client files on my desk. I turned pale when I saw the files. "Wait, these all have deadlines this month, right?" I asked in confusion, but Jerry was already packing up at his desk. "I'm heading out. Take care," he said, and quickly left the office. "Good luck, okay?" Olivia followed Jerry out, laughing mockingly. Unbelievable. I sighed and opened the client files left on my desk. Some of the files were Olivia's responsibility. I sighed even deeper. I knew why Jerry was harassing me. They wanted me to retire quickly. I have more experience and deeper knowledge in taxation than him. So other members of the tax department come to me with their questions instead of Jerry. There are other reasons why everyone avoids Jerry. He looks greasy and unapproachable. The only female employee who stays near him is Olivia. Jerry likes young women. That's probably why he wants me to retire, so the other female employees will rely on him more. It's such shallow thinking. It gives me chills. There's also the fact that he simply doesn't like me. Olivia was harassing me to curry favor with Jerry. Jerry evaluates the performance of the tax department, so she probably wanted to undermine me to get a good evaluation from him. Anyway, I have to manage these declarations. I have to prepare the tax declarations for my assigned companies, but it looks like I won't finish today's work either. If I try to claim overtime, I'll just get complaints from Jerry and Olivia. So I resigned myself to unpaid overtime. Then, one day, I was suddenly called to the president's office. Our company had just had a change of president. The original president's father had been managing the company since it was founded, and he had recently handed it over to his son. The son had always worked at another company and wasn't fully familiar with ours, but he had to take over because his father had suddenly fallen ill. "Excuse me," I said as I entered the president's office. I noticed Jerry and Olivia there, both with unpleasant smirks on their faces. "Why are Jerry and the others here?" I muttered quietly so no one else could hear. In this tense and strange atmosphere, the president spoke. "Nicole, we'll need you to resign by the end of this month." "Excuse me? What do you mean?" I asked, my mind spinning. "I heard from Jerry and Olivia that you've been overbilling for overtime. Other members of the tax department have only about 16 hours of overtime per month, but Nicole, you're already over 83 hours. Don't you find that odd? Jerry and Olivia have 0 overtime this month. Impressive, right?" The president looked at me sternly. "The reason my overtime was so high this month was that I was doing Jerry and Olivia's work. But if I said it was Jerry's instructions, it would seem like my own inability to manage time. So I just stated the facts. I haven't overbilled for overtime. It's because I couldn't finish my work within regular hours." The president sighed deeply. "I'm doubtful, but there's no evidence, so I won't pursue it further. However, we can't continue to employ someone who works that slowly, so I want you to resign." The president's mind seemed made up. Me being told to leave the company I had dedicated my entire 35-year career to. I was tired too. No matter how much more I did beyond my own work, it was never appreciated. Instead, I ended up having to take on Jerry and Olivia's work as well. "Yes, I understand. I'll resign at the end of this month." I realized I had already said that to the president. I glanced at Jerry and Olivia. They were smiling smugly, looking very pleased. After leaving the president's office with them, Olivia looked at me and said, "Thanks for quitting." Olivia sneered at me. I just silently stared back at her. Jerry also looked down on me the same way. "We're cutting labor costs. We don't need someone who exploits overtime pay at our company." Jerry seemed pleased too. While watching the two of them talk so cheerily, I thought about the handover process and started creating the handover documents for all my clients. Of course, I didn't miss saying goodbye to the people I was handing over to. I tried to get an appointment with the president to say goodbye in person. For the presidents I couldn't meet, I sent letters and informed them of my successor. A week after I resigned, I was relaxing at home. I had been busy with the handover until my resignation and had been extremely busy even before that. A little relaxation shouldn't be a problem. As I was thinking this, my mobile phone rang. When I checked the call, it was from the company. What could they want now? I made sure to take care of the social insurance procedures. I didn't answer the phone, but then the company called several more times. In fact, I had also received several calls from Jerry and Olivia's personal mobile phones. Maybe they thought I'd answer if it was from the company. Reluctantly, I decided to answer. "Hello? Nicole, it's a mess right now," the president said as soon as I answered. "Who exactly are you?" I laughed mockingly at his words. "Who am I? Just an unemployed lady. I've resigned from the company and I'm nothing else, right?" Then the president spoke urgently. "Since you left, we've had 55 calls to stop transactions with the company. Please come back immediately." The president said his piece and hung up. He must be really panicked. I guess I have no choice. I got up reluctantly and headed to the company. As soon as I arrived, Jerry and Olivia were waiting. Both of their faces were pale, and they had dark circles under their eyes. "What's wrong with both of you?" I asked, surprised at their drastic change in appearance. Jerry glared at me and said, "Since you left, we've been getting calls one after another to stop transactions. Not just from your clients, but from prospective companies we were planning to introduce. What did you do?" Olivia also looked at me with suspicion. I never thought Nicole would do something so underhanded. I'm truly disillusioned. The reason they both looked so haggard was probably due to dealing with the cancellations. I hadn't done anything to the clients, but I had a guess why they were canceling their transactions. "Well, the cancellations might be unavoidable this time," I muttered. Jerry yelled, "So you did do something, didn't you? Get to the president's office now." He then took me to the president's office. "President, I brought her," Jerry declared forcefully as he opened the door. Olivia followed in a hurry. "Oh, I've been waiting," the president said, looking me in the eyes. Jerry accused me like I was the culprit. It appears that Nicole was involved in the cessation of transactions with our clients. We should not only make her resign, but also sue her for damages. Olivia argued vehemently, though her language was careful in front of the president. The president ignored them and asked, "Why did so many companies stop transactions after you left?" I took a deep breath and answered clearly, "Don't you understand? Our clients don't need us to manage their taxes. There are tax accountant firms that do it cheaper. Yet they continued with us because I was here." Jerry snapped at me. "What's with that attitude towards the president? And you think you're worth that much?" Olivia taunted, "There's no way it has to be Nicole." The president looked serious. "Jerry and Olivia work based on the manual, optimizing operations, but I do more than that. I offer tax-saving strategies tailored to our clients' situations. Uniform responses don't always serve the client's best interests. Many clients preferred my approach and stayed because of it." Jerry got angry. "How can we afford to give such detailed attention to each case? It takes too much time." "That's right, it's inefficient," Olivia strongly agreed. The president sighed deeply and said, "Actually, I just got a call from Dad, the former president. Some of the clients who stopped transactions had gone directly to him to negotiate about Nicole." I was surprised to hear this. I hadn't expected the clients to go that far for me. Dad said that the tax department was viable because of Nicole. She not only managed her clients, but also supported her colleagues' clients, and she has knowledge that Jerry can't match. Dad also said that if Nicole hadn't declined, she would have been in a higher position than a department head by now. The president spoke with a pained expression. "No way." Olivia looked shocked. She probably couldn't believe I might have been her boss. The president continued, "I'm really sorry for making you resign, but can we cancel your resignation, Nicole? You're needed at our company. My father also strongly said so." I was honestly happy about the president's changed opinion, but I couldn't accept it. Then Jerry interrupted, "President, what do you mean she's better than me? I can't accept this." Jerry was visibly upset. Olivia also protested, "Jerry is a wonderful boss who cares for his subordinates, and yet you choose Nicole over him? That's unacceptable." The president looked sternly at them. "Actually, since Nicole resigned, we've been receiving numerous complaints from the tax department. You two seem to have been pushing your work onto others, haven't you?" "What? Why would you say that?" Jerry's face turned pale. The president started speaking with a look of disgust. "I've heard from the employees. Jerry, you've been pushing the preparation of your clients' declaration forms onto your subordinates, haven't you? Including Olivia's work for many clients." Next to Jerry, who was getting paler, Olivia trembled when her name was mentioned. "There was a leak saying you've been pushing your work onto Nicole until she resigned. Jerry, you were calling her a salary thief. It seems the roles are reversed, aren't they?" The president spoke with a sigh. "No, that's not true." Jerry was visibly flustered, unable to come up with an excuse. Observing Jerry and Olivia turning pale together, the president continued, "Also, there was a leak that you two are in a relationship. You were often seen leaving work together, but Jerry, you're married, aren't you?" The president glared at Jerry and Olivia. "I was just mentoring Olivia as her superior. Nothing inappropriate." Jerry struggled to find the words when the president produced several receipts. "These are receipts queried by the accounting department. These dining expenses filed by Jerry. Who were they with? Certainly not with clients, right?" Jerry was sweating profusely, unable to speak. Olivia's face turned ghostly pale. "Jerry and Olivia, you've neglected your duty and inflated expense claims. Plus, you're having an affair in the office despite being married. According to company policy, I'm terminating your employment as of today," the president told them calmly and straightforwardly. Jerry and Olivia tried to resist. "Please wait. I'll retract the receipt claims. Just don't fire me. I have a family." Jerry desperately tried to reverse his firing. Olivia did the same. Please, I don't want to be fired. I'll apologize to Nicole and the others for dumping work on them. Olivia was on the verge of tears, realizing the severity of being fired for neglecting work and having an affair with a supervisor. She must have been worried about her reputation. I advised Jerry and Olivia, "Why don't you just stop resisting? It's undignified." Jerry glared at me. "Shut up. What would a single person like you understand?" I sighed and said, "Jerry, you were the one who got me fired. It's just karma. What goes around comes around. Why don't you take some responsibility and reflect a bit?" Damn it, Jerry looked frustrated. Olivia bit her lip. "I haven't reported this yet, but there's more to Jerry and Olivia's misconduct. Should I share more details?" I asked the president with a smile. Jerry and Olivia's behavior was well known in the tax department. Their stories had reached me whether I liked it or not. "No, please don't, Nicole. Stop." Both were frantically trying to stop me. I gave them an ultimatum. Wrongdoings eventually come to light. It would be better for you to face reality before it gets worse. At my words, both of them collapsed to their knees. Ultimately, Jerry and Olivia were fired on the spot. I revealed their misdeeds afterward. These included Jerry faking business trips to go out with Olivia for days and harassing employees they disliked into quitting. They repeatedly reprimanded and pressured employees out of my sight and suddenly assigned work with tight deadlines. The employees who resigned asked me to keep quiet, but now they are happily working at other companies, so I decided it was okay to speak up. The president was furious at my revelation. He expressed his anger about cutting their final salary and also planned to thoroughly investigate past inflated expense claims. Jerry was begging the president, tears in his eyes, "Please don't cut my salary. What will I tell my family if they find out?" Eventually, Jerry and Olivia's affair was exposed to Jerry's wife, and Jerry ended up getting divorced. The two are now facing claims for compensation in the divorce lawsuit. I know this because, for some reason, Jerry contacted me. "Please, can you persuade the president to reconsider the firing? Olivia and I are in a real bind now." Apparently, Jerry and Olivia are struggling to find new jobs. The tax industry is somewhat insular. If you commit too many misdeeds, word spreads quickly through the industry's network. That's why no one is willing to hire Jerry and Olivia. They need money for the divorce compensation and living expenses, so now they're working day labor at construction sites. People used to office work suddenly doing hard labor outdoors must be tough. Olivia often calls me crying, "Nicole, please help. I just wanted a raise and a better life. I never really liked Jerry, and this situation is unbearable," Olivia would say, crying. However, Jerry and Olivia's predicament is their own doing. Many people, including myself, have been victims of their actions. So I told Olivia, "This is all your own fault, Olivia. You can't undo what's been done. It will be hard to return to the same path. You're just going to have to deal with the hardships." "No way," Olivia cried out in despair. This was the outcome of Olivia's actions. I hope she continues to regret her actions in the future. As for me, I'm still enjoying a relaxed lifestyle away from work. The president has been begging me to return, but I have declined. After being told to resign once, I don't think I'll go back. Sometimes I help out at a friend's tax office to earn a bit of money. Maybe once things settle down, I'll start my own office like my friend. In my own office, no one can complain about my working style. I can fully dedicate myself to my clients. As a tax accountant, I want to be on equal footing with my clients, not as a teacher, but as part of the service industry. My second life has just begun. I'm looking forward to delving into what I want to do next. Olivia's tears and pleas for help continued to come. "Nicole, please help. I just wanted a better life," she would cry. But her words didn't move me. The memory of the stress and harassment I endured because of her and Jerry was still fresh in my mind. "Olivia, you made your bed. and now you have to lie in it, I would tell her. You can't expect sympathy when you showed none to others. But it's so hard, Olivia would sob. I never imagined it would turn out like this. Actions have consequences, I replied. You and Jerry brought this on yourselves. You can't go back and undo it. Now you have to face the results of what you've done. Olivia's cries of despair were the echoes of her own choices. It was a harsh lesson, but one she needed to learn. As for me, I found peace in my new routine. Helping out at my friend's tax office was rewarding. I enjoyed the work without the toxic atmosphere Jerry and Olivia had created. The president's requests for me to return became more frequent. Please come back, Nicole. We need you, he would say. I'm sorry, but I can't return, I would reply each time. I appreciate the offer, but I've moved on. Starting my own office became a clearer goal each day. In my own space, I would set the rules. No more dealing with unfair treatment or office politics. I would focus on providing the best service to my clients, building relationships based on trust and respect. In this new chapter of my life, I could finally breathe. I felt lighter, free from the burdens of the past. My days were filled with purpose, and my nights were peaceful, free from the anxiety that had once plagued me. Looking forward, I saw endless possibilities. I could expand my skills, take on new challenges, and build something of my own. My second life was just beginning, and I was excited about the future. No longer weighed down by the negativity of my old job, I could now fully embrace the opportunities ahead. As I planned my new business, I remembered the support and trust my clients had shown me. They were the reason I continued in this field. Their belief in my abilities was the foundation of my new venture. With them in mind, I knew I would succeed. My journey had been tough, but it had made me stronger. Now, I was ready to turn the page and start a new chapter. With renewed energy and a clear vision, I looked forward to what was to come. My past experiences had taught me valuable lessons, and I was eager to apply them in my new role. In the end, Olivia and Jerry's downfall served as a reminder of the importance of integrity and respect in the workplace. Their story was a cautionary tale, one that reinforced my commitment to building a positive and supportive environment in my own office. As I moved forward, I carried with me the knowledge that I could overcome any obstacle. My resilience and determination had brought me this far, and they would continue to guide me in the future. My second life was not just a continuation of the old, but a new beginning, full of promise and potential.